And welcome back to session 3, 4? I don't know. Last left off, we killed Basarin, Colossi 10, or 9 rather. We're on 10. Thy next foe is an isolated sand dune. Its tracks are well hidden. Shaking the earth, its gaze is upon thee. Alright, let's head on to our next Colossi. While we wait for aggro here and start heading towards our destination, I would like to bring up the original initial viral marketing campaign for Shadow Colossus on PS2. In the, I think it was the months leading up to its release, Sony had this, sort of viral marketing campaign, as I just said, repeating myself, but they had this blog running by some guy who's just random archaeologist from out in the middle of nowhere, who sharing and posting these videos of giant creature remains that are washing up on the shores of India, and a large quadratus here who are about ready to pass again, buried in the ice, and I believe it was Antarctica. But unlike their corpses here in the game, they were certainly organic in that they were giant fossils or permafrost like frozen mammoths, which does help tie back into Quadratus's developer code name as Mammoth. I don't know if the intention of having him as similar to a frozen mammoth in that viral marketing campaign was intentional or not, but it's a fun little detail if it was especially if it was intended. Hydrus, the giant electric eel catfish. There's a collage of photos of a bunch of underground rocks that form it and stuff like that. And I believe somewhere they said in South America there's a giant statue, quote unquote, that was supposed to be Gaius, the third Colossi. And then there's a giant rib cage and skull found of Colossi number 13, which we obviously haven't been to yet. Yeah, this viral marketing campaign was pushing the idea like it was real and there was some conspiracy to hide it. And they've long since taken it down, I want to say a year or two after release. But the entire intent the whole time was to sort of lead into this mystery, and it's all just for this video game. And that's kind of an angle I enjoy, but I don't know how well that would go over in the current climate of conspiracy theories that are a little too out in the open these days. I think we can all agree to that when we hear things like anti-vaxxers and 5G's causing the COVID-19. Yeah, I don't think we need to be giving people like this any more fuel than we have to. And I was a big fan of that viral campaign, especially since I'm still not quite to the degree I used to be into cryptozoology, which is study of hidden animals, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, that whole deal. Even though it was obviously fake, well, obvious as it could be before that game, I believe, was even announced. I don't think it was at that time, but mostly they were giving low-resolution photos and videos of teams out in the Arctic and whatnot finding these massive remains. Pretty cool. And for Quadratus, they actually had quote-unquote 3D scans of the beast beneath the ice. And eventually they shut down the blog both in quote-unquote God, I need to stop using that phrase. It's overusing it. In universe, and that the author of the blog was shutting it down in order to go pursue the truth himself, and then of course just by way of just how things go, and they always get shut down over time. The website was taken offline, and it's been archived, which is pretty nice. You can even go on YouTube and find some of that old footage, as incredibly low resolution as it is. Oh, aggro. Safe shrine. There are two main entrances into this arena. I've gone up to the top one as it's a bit of a shorter gallop or jaunt. I think the other way is a little more visually interesting. Perhaps I'll eventually go by it. Colossus 10, Dirge. Who here likes tremors? I certainly do. Dirge, one of the more organic colossi. Now, aggro is required for this fight, as will be made clear soon enough. Oh boy. For the most part, you can leave her on autopilot, just try to keep her from staring into the walls a little too much. Come on out. I'm not entirely sure if there's any anything in particular with its code name that reflects on its design. And there's the secret. You have to get it to reveal its eyes. So we can blind it and force it into a wall. Let's try not to get buried alive. I think we got its first entire sigil, hopefully. Well, dirge is defined as a funeral song, such as something like Danny Boy, The Pipes Are Calling, anything you play at someone's passing. And I'm not entirely sure of the symbolism of that name, if it has any at all. The absolute most I've been able to personally guess is that it's wailing shrieks sound something like that. Or at least that's the intent. Oh no. Oh jeez. That didn't work out. What? Alright. And that was a death. I cut out a little bit of the reloading and all that. Yeah, I was not expecting that to happen. We bugged out a little and got buried underneath the sand. But now at least you get a glimpse of what happens when a Colossi kills you. You get to see its nice portrait at the end of the battle. Well, at least this gives me a chance to get back on topic of some of what I was saying. Alright, round 2. Hopefully we don't bug out again. We'll just go ahead and skip the cinematic. As I was initially intending to get into, back when I first rented this, I had no idea what they wanted me to do with this fight. I initially thought, hey, graboid, tremors, there's rocks all around, maybe I'm supposed to stand on one of those and force it to come get me on one of them. But nope, that is definitely not the case. I just stood there and waiting for it to do something for like at least 5 minutes before I finally just had to look it up, because I didn't really understand that you could aim with your bow while you're on the back of aggro. And back up we go. Oh, come on. So much for a no-death run. There she is. There's a cut Colossi that we don't know a whole lot about, but it was supposed to be similar to Dirge here, except main difference was it had no eyes, and it was apparently much bigger, and its stomach its face was closer to representation of something like some sort of carnivorous plant or a Mongolian deathworm style thing. Come on, aggro. A little faster. Oh. And that's another Colossi down. Made that look harder than it is. Mystery in the sand. I'm greatly appreciative of all the snake, worm-like creatures in this game. Dirge in particular actually has a mobile mouth, and it's like mandibles almost. Just got a little bit of weirdness to go along with it. Ten down. Thy next foe is... An altar overlooks the lake. A guardian set loose. It keeps the flames alive. This one is pretty straightforward to get to. Almost literally. We're about to go through a desert on a horse who assuredly has a name. You know, something I've wondered about since bringing it up, but wondering if Nico, the original multiplayer playing version of this, if they ended up indeed having 48 Colossi and things like that, would they possibly have just sort of turned this into a pseudo Monster Hunter type game along the lines? Because the intention was multiplayer all along. I could see it having a similar, like, gameplay loop and flow. Have we hit this one? No, we have not. And on that topic specifically, I was wondering, would they get like turf wars like Monster Hunter World has? Because that would be the coolest possible thing to witness. Like, just watching these Colossi go at it, and they give you these big open worlds, and if two spawn, then they can go at it and fight, and dealing with your target. I mean, it eventually just becomes Monster Hunter Attack on Titan, and that would be pretty cool. Alright, this is the battle area for Colossi 11. This path appears to be more or less the same as it was. It looked a little bit smoother on the PS2 and PS3 because it's using a lot less polygons and higher and less detailed textures, but it overall still gets the same point across. This is a well-worn, well-walked path that people have been used for quite a while. Right, it's as bad as a lake. They probably had some sort of dock here. If this at one point was not flooded when they were colonized down here. Because as it stands, this looks like some form of area, possibly. Well, we'll get closer to it. See the doorways and stuff sculpted into the wall over there. Now, I beat this drum a lot with this game. But boy, does this whole thing remind me of, like, South America and Mexico in particular, ancient cultures. And this boss. Number 11. Colossi number 11. Colossia. Now, it is very aggressive, as you can tell. Get up. Now, our goal here is to get up to one of these giant urns. Oh, and get him to ram it, as such. Ow. I don't remember if these particular pillars were here before, but there was one time on the PS2 copy that I would, that I managed to get completely and totally stun-locked from this guy every time I'd get back up. He'd ram me again until it eventually killed me. Well, at least we grabbed it. No longer a light, but we can fix that. Even though they say it keeps the flames alive, it is very much afraid of them. And it's very important to note that this thing has fear. Unless it's little fearful paw swipes at you. Which makes killing it a little more depressing. I hope I make this. I did. Took some damage, but whatever. The thing I like here about Colossus' design is that it's somewhere this blurry line between cat and like a panther and a big dog and a large dog. Getting the hammer point home of the Aztec theme, it reminds me specifically of the Aztec god Xolotl. And Xolotl was the twin brother of Quetzalcoatl. And this is over before I can finish my train of thought. Guardian of the Pit. Xolotl was the Aztec god of fire and lightning, and one of his tasks was to guide the newly deceased through the underworld. Mictacon, I believe it was, and of course, Aztec mythology, as dark and bloody as it is. One interpretation of when they created the fifth sun was all the gods had to sacrifice themselves in order to fuel it and keep it going, and Xolotl was the one forced to execute the rest of them, and in doing so he cried his eyes out so much that he literally did, and his eyes became sockets. There's also something of a trickster god, or not quite evil, but it's just the way mythology is. Gods are generally more human in earlier belief systems.